can stand between me and home. Not even the gods.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Christopher Nolan's Odyssey movie is finally out. This will be my review. There's a lot to unpack. This is one of the biggest movies that he's ever done. He said that everything he's done before has led to this achievement, even though I still think fans will be divided on exactly which of his movies is best. And because most of Hollywood is in this movie, you're also going to be seeing another big Spider-Man movie in the next couple of weeks with a lot of the same actors in it. We have two big movies with Tom Holland, Zendaya, and Jon Bernthal coming out at the same time this summer. Christopher Nolan is really hoping that you come to his movie. The Odyssey is Christopher Nolan's retelling of Homer's epic Odyssey story, and even though it's over 3,000 years old, I don't think we need a spoiler alert for a 3,000-year-old story that we all had to read in high school, but I will still say spoiler warning for the movie. The movie follows Odysseus' life, portrayed by Matt Damon, after the Trojan War as he tries to return home to Ithaca and his wife and son, Penelope, played by Anne Hathaway, and Tom Holland, who plays Telemachus. Tries to defy the gods, then slowly tries to reckon with the very terrible things that he did during the Trojan War and after the war while he was trying to bring his men home alive. So for the first two acts of the movie, you're watching him remember the Trojan War, and it does move like a Christopher Nolan movie typically moves, where he's jumping around in the internal timeline of the movie. Odysseus in present day, remembering the Trojan War, violating Zeus's law of hospitality, and all the other gods, including Athena, his patron goddess, played by Zendaya, commit unspeakable acts, then by the third act starts to come to terms with the horrors that he's committed in a very rewarding conclusion as he does successfully accomplish his goal of seemingly trying to become a better person for it, vowing to be better. If you've read the Odyssey story, even if you just did the Cliff Notes in school when you were supposed to be reading it, no judging, no judging. The movie is basically a speedrun version of it. Most of the changes that Christopher Nolan makes are to the costumes, like the way people look, the languages, like the way they actually speak to each other, practical aspects like the ships that the Greeks are sailing in, just to make it look more like a modern movie, he said. Christopher Nolan told it in a much more articulate way, but he was basically saying he was trying to make the movie accessible to modern audiences and less dense than if it were the characters just literally reading Homer's translated Odyssey story off the page.
Ever read the Odyssey? After Odysseus was caught by the Cyclops, he told it his name was Nobody. So when he poked its eye out and its friends asked who did it, all the Cyclops could say was, nobody.
There are some of you that I've seen in the comments on my previous Odyssey trailer videos this year who were either students of the Odyssey in depth in college or even at the PhD level, so some of you probably know way more about the Odyssey than even Christopher Nolan did. But generally the movie feels like a big win for Christopher Nolan superfans as well as teachers out there who are not going to be able to have an S-tier Odyssey movie to show in their classes while they're teaching the book. But most of you are probably used to all the modernized changes directors have made to different adaptations of the Odyssey story up to this point. There have been miniseries before. If you want the longer version, like even longer version, I would recommend Armand Assante's miniseries from a number of years ago. Pretty solid. The movie does cover the actual Trojan War, which lasted for 10 years, but the actual Odyssey story itself is everything that happens right after the Trojan War, so you could look at the movie as like a spiritual sequel to the Brad Pitt-Troy movie, but really big asterisk here. Christopher Nolan's movie isn't literally connected to that movie in any way, and it is vastly superior in every way to the Troy movie. Massive upgrade on every level. Matt Damon is definitely going to be nominated for an Oscar for his performance. My favorite scenes of his, even though they're all great, are both the Siren's song, that sequence, and then his speech to his wife Penelope just before the big final battle. That's probably going to be the one that most people focus on when they talk about Oscar-worthy performance. By that point in the movie, he completely reckoned with all the terrible things he and his men had done and has dedicated himself to becoming a better man. So the movie covers what's happening back in Ithaca, his home, while he's running around trying to make it back home. And there's this moment later in the movie, once Telemachus, his son, has met him and then returned, before Penelope, his wife, realizes Odysseus is still alive and returned, they talk about this growing darkness that Menelaus, played by Jon Bernthal, also in Spider-Man Brand New Day. Like I said, a lot of Spider-Man Brand New Day actors that are in this movie. A dark force, dark army, very bad people that Menelaus warned Telemachus about, a force of men sailing around the seas violating Zeus's laws of hospitality, and Menelaus viewed them as this terrible storm that might soon destroy his home on Sparta, but his troops were ready for them and he was prepared for it. But back on Ithaca, where Telemachus and Odysseus, Penelope are from, they were not, because they had no king. Odysseus was still missing for the last 20 years and they had no army to speak of. So Penelope, his wife, is worried about having to deal with the suitors who have plagued her for the past 3 years, and this dangerous army of darkness and chaos that are coming to destroy Ithaca at some point, this terrible coming force that they don't know anything about yet.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
At the end of the movie, during this particular big speech, like one of his best speeches, Odysseus confesses all the terrible things that they've done during the Trojan War, and after, she's horrified. Penelope is horrified to realize that the coming dark forces that everybody was worried about, going around killing all these people, the sacred laws of the gods, was actually Odysseus and his men. So it's a very Breaking Bad, Walter White kind of reveal moment, like, I am the danger, I am the one who knocks. We were the terrible people that everybody was worried about, going around killing everybody. But because this is happening at the end of the movie, Odysseus at this point has reckoned with those past misdeeds and has vowed to become a better man. So it winds up being this really beautiful speech bookending his whole journey and previous 2 acts of the movie. So when people say the third act really rewards the first 2, this is mostly what they're talking about, this final act where Odysseus finally makes it back home to Ithaca, and you see him in the act of being the better man that he vowed to become along the way. As he also begins to clean up the trash on Ithaca, so to speak, talking about the suitors, and then begins to set things right, sailing off with Penelope to honor his fallen men, like he said he would do to them earlier in the movie, because he is confronted with the literal faces of his past misdeeds and the way that he wronged people when he goes into the afterlife, into Hades. But unlike a lot of big modern epic movies, this movie doesn't let Odysseus off the hook for all the terrible things that he did during the war. The different characters he runs into along his journey throw those things back in his face, literally sometimes. His fallen comrades who died for him, the people that he wronged, people like Calypso and Circe who force him to remember and reckon with the terrible things that he and his men have done. A lot of the movie is also reckoning with what war does to men in general. So Christopher Nolan also makes the movie an allegory for modern war II and what it does to modern people. You could all draw parallels to all the recent wars around the world. And even though it does take place over 3,000 years ago in the past, he said that Christopher Nolan views the movie as a spiritual sequel to Oppenheimer. And the way that Oppenheimer himself felt when he saw the reality of what he created, how horrific the destruction was, in The Odyssey, then doing something similar with the Trojan War. So the movie is very on the nose with how it addresses this. It's not subtle at all. Homer's original story is so massive that Odysseus still goes through that whole same character arc, but a lot of the time it does feel like more of an adventure story just because it is so big. Hero was awesome during the Trojan War, then just kind of goes through it trying to survive for the next 20 years, makes it home, then does some awesome revenge things on the suitors, and that's the end of it.
I'll be back.
Whereas Christopher Nolan cut down the story so much, so focused, that at every turn it's very clear that everything he did was wrong along the way, all these terrible things they did, why it was terrible, how he specifically wronged people, and what he plans to do to make it right. Just talking about the practical filmmaking things that were happening during the movie, he said he shot so much footage for the film, he could probably release a 12-hour version, and I would love to see that 12-hour version. It is an absolute beautiful movie, like most of his movies. Most of the attention is on the use of the special IMAX cameras, too. They've been talking about that a lot during the press tour, and how they constructed a special box to house it in, because it is so loud that the actors can't hear each other when they're using it up close. One of the other diabolical things that they did while they were filming the movie is that the camera itself only holds 3 minutes worth of film. So when they were filming, no matter what was happening in any particular scene at any particular moment, they'd have to cut, stop after 3 minutes, freeze while they reloaded the camera, then go for another 3 minutes, and then just do it again, bootstrapping their way through an entire day of filming. Every single day they were filming the movie. And it took them about 6 months to film the movie this way. And a lot of the speeches you'll notice in the movie when you go see it are longer than 3 minutes, so you have to imagine the actors doing the super emotional or super hardcore moment, then just a record scratch stopping dead in their tracks for like 15 minutes while they reload the camera, then do it again for another 3 minutes, and just continue through all the scenes day to day like this. It sounds like an absolute insane way to film a movie. One of the reasons why the movie does look so beautiful is because they shot most of it on location, not inside a studio with video walls like The Mandalorian and Grogu. There are visual effects in the movie. Christopher Nolan said the conditions for filming were so grueling along the way that they actually wrapped the movie something like 9 days early and under budget because they've been going at this hardcore pace for 6 months, and all the actors physically were on the edge of death by the end and literally could not continue. Like everybody working on the movie, this army of people just collapsed at the end. So we just decided enough was enough, and that was all that they needed. As opposed to like a typical big Marvel movie like the Avengers Doomsday right now, where the actors talk about it and make it sound like they're filming more of a glorified summer camp. I do feel like the Odyssey ending lands in a really great way, like really great payoff. You are rewarded for your time. And I think in general, a lot of Christopher Nolan's success as a filmmaker is because he prepares so thoroughly before they ever start filming. This is why it takes him 4 to 5 years to make a new movie sometimes. By the time he's ready to film, he knows exactly what he wants and what he needs from the movie. So it actually takes him less time when you really think about it to film his movies than like big Marvel movies. And even though he does use visual effects, he doesn't have to punish his visual effects artists to finish their work on the movie. There's very little waste just in general. Like he said, he came in under budget and under time on the movie, which is almost unheard of on these giant big epic movies in Hollywood. By contrast, big Marvel movie like Avengers Doomsday, they didn't even have a real script when they began filming, and the story changes every single day during filming, and they just figure out the movie as they go along. And it is absolute hell on visual effects artists who they make change all their work a bunch of times by the last minute.
Woo, I'm about to make a name for myself here.
I don't think you guys walk away from this.
You just make sure people know what happened here today.
All the other actors in the movie were fantastic. Robert Pattinson is like the real main villain of the movie. Although all the suitors are terrible people, he is the ringleader. His death was very satisfying. He understood the assignment. Be as terrible as possible. Make everybody hate you so they cheer your death. All the rest of the supporting actors were great too. I was surprised Himesh Patel wasn't a bigger part of the marketing though, because he is such a critical part of the movie, especially in the first 2 acts. But I guess they just wanted to focus on the bigger A-list stars that they had in the movie, like Matt Damon, Tom Holland, and Anne Hathaway. Most of Hollywood was in this movie though, so like you probably will recognize a lot of the people working in this film. I do think the movie does a lot of work in proving to people that Tom Holland does have a career as an actor outside of Spider-Man, even though there's so much Spider-Man stuff happening right now. I don't know if I'd call his performance Oscar-worthy, but he's definitely going to be nominated probably for supporting actor. He also said Sony and Marvel purposefully delayed Spider-Man Brand New Day just so he could be in the Odyssey. Like he had a very uncomfortable phone call with the president of Sony. Please, can you stop filming on Spider-Man? Like wait to film until I do the Odyssey, which to his credit, Sony allowed him to do. So this is the reason why Spider-Man Brand New Day is coming out at the end of July instead of the beginning, like 4th of July weekend, like they would have normally done. All the music in the movie was great. Travis Scott himself also did music for the movie, but also appears as a bard character during the banquet scenes on Ithaca. So if you wonder why Travis Scott just randomly appears during this movie, that's why. All the weird controversy about the movie online felt kind of ridiculous after actually seeing the movie. I do not think that any of it's going to be an issue. I fully expect the movie to do gangbusters at the box office. I don't know where it's going to fall exactly on Christopher Nolan's own box office records, but I think it will do totally fine. There's a lot of spoilery stuff that we can get into in my longer breakdown video, but once you do have a chance to see the movie, post all your reactions in the comments below. I'm in the middle of working on a much larger breakdown and Easter eggs video for the entire movie. That'll post later this week after the movie releases in theaters, so be sure to enable alerts for my channel so you don't miss that. We also have San Diego Comic-Con happening next week. There's a bunch of Spider-Man Brand New Day stuff, Avengers Doomsday trailer that's supposed to drop during that too. So we're going to be eating good for the next couple of weeks. I will try to do videos for as much of that stuff as possible. Everybody click here and here for all of those videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.